More Rose Tomorrow. Chapter 1, A Witness to the Rule. Narrated by Bronky the Donkey. My name is Bronky. I'm a donkey. That's a matter of observable fact, not philosophy, though I do keep a few theories under my tail for emergencies. I live on the high end of the holler, where the ground lifts just enough to keep your hooves dry and your thoughts above the mosquitoes. From up here, I can see the whole operation, a few fields, a slow creek, and one tired human working himself toward the same finish line every day, supper. They call this place the holler. Outsiders would call it a valley, but that word's too dignified. A valley sounds like it has postcards. A holler is what you end up with when the land folds its arms and tells the wind to hush. The first thing you should know is the rule. It's simple. The Crossett Lumber Company does not exist. That's not an act of denial. It's zoning. Inside this patch of geography, the industrial world just didn't happen. No saws, no smoke, no clocks. People still argue about time, but here it's a rumor that hasn't been proven. Outsiders might say we're behind. They'd be wrong. Time isn't a line, it's a puddle. Step wrong and you end up standing in 1890 again, wondering where your cell signal went. I'm what you'd call a millionaire in the holler. Not rich, just well supplied with continuity. A man who's got a mule can eat. A man who's got a mule can barter. A man with a mule owns a tomorrow. That makes both of us wealthy by local standards. Paper money here is mostly good for starting fires and proving you don't know what bacon grease is for. Humans measure wealth in paper and noise. They stack their anxieties into little fenced-in anxiety farms called cities, then spin inside them until they mistake exhaustion for progress. They call that the 50-mile radius life. I watch them drive in circles from the comfort of my shade tree and chew on the thought. I do most of my philosophy while chewing. Keeps me grounded. I'm work yet to witness. That's what I was born for. 4 hooves and 1 good memory. Because I live longer than most men around here, I end up keeping their minutes for them. When they forget, I remember. When they lie, I blink slow and wait for them to correct it. I remember the first man, Jim Pennington. They said he came here after the war. No one remembers which one, just that he walked funny and trusted nobody who wasn't kin or corn. He brought a wife, Elizabeth, and a chipped iron skillet that rattled like a conscience in the wagon bed. They were refugees from something bigger than they could name, what he called the failed project of Reconstruction. All I knew was he smelled like sweat and purpose. Jim fired his rifle into the night the first evening and declared the place safe. The echo disagreed. He waited for it to stop arguing before he unpacked. The next morning, he came out to fetch me. The candle he carried was homemade, rendered from fat and perseverance. He walked slow, like a man entering church. He touched my mane, looked up at the sky that wasn't quite daylight yet, and said, "All right, Bronky, let's earn the morning." That's the holler in one sentence. Earning the morning. He hitched me to the plow, and we started the sacred repetition. The same rows his grandsons will plow, the same mud, the same complaint that there's never enough daylight. Men call it labor. I call it continuity. Every furrow is just another heartbeat in the long body of the land. Around us, the creek ran brown and honest. It's called Fountain Creek, though nobody ever found the fountain. The name's older than memory. The water doesn't keep time either. It just circles through the bends, washing the same handful of rocks 1,000 different ways. Some nights you can hear voices down there. Those are the ancestors, standing knee-deep in their own reflections, waiting to see if the living remember them. The Penningtons remember in chores. That's their theology. They believe God helps those who hoe. Elizabeth runs the house like a small republic, one president, no opposition. Jim pretends to lead, but really just interprets her decrees into field work. I translate them again into motion. That's how a family functions, a divine hierarchy topped by a rooster who thinks he's vice president. Speaking of which, General Beauregard has already started crowing. He's a redneck showboat who wears a Big Chief pencil pin on his chest like a Medal of Honor. Every dawn he announces, "Cock-a-doodle-doo, motherfuckers, .com, bitches." No one knows what it means, but it's encouraging. Even the corn straightens up a little. Down by the pen, Lord Porkington the pig is giving another lecture on the fragmentation of consciousness. He read half a page of Owen Barfield once and hasn't shut up since. He claims modernity separated mind from matter, which explains why he can't reach his own back itch. I tell him philosophy is just rooting with adjectives. He calls that ad hominem. I call it accurate. The rule keeps us safe from the outside world. It's not superstition, it's civic planning. If the Crossett Lumber Company doesn't exist, then deforestation can't happen, and therefore neither can time cards, debt, or progress reports. We run on moon cycles and mule endurance. The outside world runs on caffeine and battery life. Guess which one runs out first? Humans sometimes ask if we're trapped here. They don't understand that the holler isn't a cage, it's an anchor. Progress is the only treadmill that makes noise. Stillness is where the real motion hides. I was there when the Penningtons built their first fence, when the creek first flooded, when the first child took her first step straight into a mud hole and laughed about it. I'll be there when their great-grandson sells lumber to a man who swears the Crossett Lumber Company exists. That'll be a funny day. Until then, I chew and watch and keep the minutes. The man and I will finish this field by noon if the plow behaves and the weather stays humble. He'll take off his hat, wipe his forehead, and say the line every man here eventually says, "More rows tomorrow." Outsiders hear "more rows tomorrow." That's because they don't speak the language of labor. To them, repetition is punishment. To us, it's proof the world still wants us around. So yes, I'm a donkey, a philosopher of mud, a millionaire of minutes, a witness to the rule. Every step I take keeps this place spinning at just the right ridiculous angle. Spinning through space, sure, but balanced on 4 steady hooves. Tomorrow, we'll do it again, because here in the holler, the sun isn't rising out of obligation, it's clocking in.